well, it turns out I don't even have a doctor anymore because she literally she dumped me. She ditched me. My doctor that I'd had since I was 21, 22, right? I'm 27. She was like, oh, you're in a wheelchair right now? I can't do that. Sorry. Like, it's just, you know, we aren't equipped to deal with that. So you're just going to have to change doctor. And it's just like, okay, well, thank you for ruining all of my trust in everything. Goodbye. And yeah, so she prescribed the wheelchair to me after I had to go to the emergency room because my leg disconnected from my body and I couldn't move it. You know, it was a whole thing. I haven't really talked about that on stream yet because it was a really traumatic experience. It was a very traumatic experience. I haven't talked about it on stream. But yeah, you knew I went to hospital, but I didn't know why. So what happened is, okay, whatever. It's time to talk about what happened. That's fine. I feel fine about it now, to be honest. And, like, I feel like I kind of want to talk about it as well. So what happened is, like, I was having some pain in my back. I'd been having pain in my back for months already, but it was a very specific kind of pain in my back that had already stopped me from really moving around my place multiple times already. So I started having these pains in my back again, and I was like, oh, well, I've had these pains before, you know, no big deal. And then one day, I invited a friend over for a cup of tea, you know, cup of tea and a vape. And while they're over, I am sitting on my bed and I just like stretch. Like I put my arms above my head and I just stretch like this. Like, I'm not going to do it because I'm worried it's going to happen again. But I just stretch my arms, right? And as I'm stretching my arms, something behind my right knee snaps, or it feels like it snaps. And I couldn't move my leg anymore. Like my right leg, I could not. I was sending the signal move leg to leg and leg would not move. That's never happened to me in my life, right? And the worst pain I'd ever felt. Something happened to my leg. I don't know what. No one's been able to help me or actually explain what happened to it yet, because literally, basically in all of the, like almost all of the healthcare providers I've seen since then have been awful about it. Like on a scale of 1 to 10, the pain was like 100. It exploded all conception of pain that I had previously, which is a lot, right? Because I was already taking more than 120 milligrams of codeine a day for pain. So, like, I was already suffering from daily pain before this happened, but this completely blew all of my conception of pain out of the water, and I couldn't move my leg. Like, I literally could not move it. So, that was terrifying. And so, I ended up at the emergency room because I couldn't move my leg. So, we called the emergency room, and they took me there on a stretcher. And I started being able to move my leg again in the ambulance. So I don't know if it's like I literally I have no idea what happened with it there. Something to do with my back, something to do with nerves, I don't know. And when I got there, the nurse, like I was left in the corridor in the hallway of the emergency room, like the emergency room hallway for like 25 minutes. Oh, wait, I forgot a very important detail that I left out because it's embarrassing, but like I actually don't care anymore. While waiting for the ambulance, which took like 3 hours to get to my place, I pissed myself on my bed because I couldn't move. Like my leg was not working right. So like I had already, like, this is how bad it was, right? Like, I'm not saying, like, I know it's probably too much information, but I'm just saying this to try and explain how much I couldn't move and how my leg was not reacting, right? And often, like, I think this is the kind of thing that happens, right? When your body breaks down or something goes terribly wrong, is that, like, your bladder just stops. Like, it just, like, you just, like, you know, it's what happens. So I arrive at the emergency room and I'm just like left in the hallway and like I'm still in, you know, my leggings that I've been in all night. So I'm just kind of like, okay, I feel awful and I'm alone and why is no one caring about me yet? And I kept asking the nurse, hey, please could you just roll me over to the restroom so I could go to the restroom again? And she was like, you're young, you can control your bladder, can't you? Like she said, like she snarled at me. She was awful. She was actually so bad. Like she was, like I was like fully shutting down. Like I was fully in trauma mode at this point. Like I was just completely shutting down. Like the fact that I'd been through all of this and I get to the emergency room and like people are just snarling at me, not believing me. Yeah, they were just making fun of me. Basically, they were implying that I had made it up and that I was fine. So yeah, and so I ended up hobbling down the hallway myself to get to the restroom, and the nurse was angry at me for that as well, because she was like, she was obviously thinking that I was making her look bad or whatever. But yeah, so I waited for like 2 hours, 3 hours in a side room, and then a doctor came in and prescribed me like the most basic painkillers you've ever seen. They didn't do any scans, nothing. And they just sent me off into the night, and I asked, like, could I have like a crutch or something? Like, you're just gonna send me off, like, what happens if my leg stops working again? Like, what could I have? And they were like, no, it would just make it worse. They said it would make it worse if I had any kind of mobility aid. So somehow I managed to, I got an Uber back. My leg was working again, but it was, working in a weird fashion. Like I sensed that something was very wrong with it. But it got me home. Like I got the Uber home and I got home. And I was super traumatized about the experience, but at least my leg was working. I was like, okay, maybe I'll be okay. My leg managed to get me home. Like, I don't know if it was like pure adrenaline or something, but you know what it's like, when you're in a situation where your body knows you're in danger, it manages to get you out. Anyway, 1 or 2 days later, I was basically not able to walk around my flat anymore. Like I was really struggling to get around my flat and do basic things like make food and just, function, right? And so I called up my doctor and I explained to her what had happened, and I said, I need an emergency, I need you to come over and see me. And like, I need some kind of mobility aid to get around my place. I can't get around my place. I can't do anything. Like, I don't know how I'm supposed to do anything right now. I can't walk, basically. And so she came over, she looked at me and stuff, and she was like, okay, yeah, well, clearly you can't get around, so I'm going to prescribe you a wheelchair. And so she prescribed me a wheelchair, and a friend helped me to get the wheelchair from the pharmacy. And the wheelchair that they prescribed was like a big, hefty, 16 kilogram tank thing. But just sitting in it and using it to get around, even though it was way too heavy for me to push long term, I could feel that it was helping. Like I could get around my flat, I could sit in, I was actually, starting to feel like an actual human again, and not someone just like dealing with pain and trying to numb myself through every day because it was just so uncomfortable all the time. Like it was like for the first time in a very long time, sitting in a wheelchair, I experienced comfort in a way that I didn't even know was even possible anymore, really. Like I've just been uncomfortable for so long, and I think in ways that I didn't even, like I just adapted to it. I was just used to it. And so I was like, oh my god, this is amazing. And 4 or 5 days after sitting in the big hefty wheelchair for the first time, I was on an online secondhand site in France, and I was trying to find a lightweight manual wheelchair so that I could, get around my flat, because even though this wheelchair it was really helping me, I couldn't push it around my flat. Like it was hurting my hands to push around the flat. So it was helping my body, but it was also, So yeah, I found this secondhand wheelchair that I'm now in, right now, that I'm sitting in, online. And I got it delivered, and I was super proud of myself. And, I was optimistic because I felt like my doctor was listening to me. She'd prescribed me a wheelchair to begin with, so I thought that she'd be happy about it. And the next time that I had a doctor's appointment with her over Zoom call, I told her about, you know, what had happened. And so I explained the situation. I said, wow, the wheelchair's helping me so much. So I found this secondhand lightweight manual one, which is basically like the one well, it's just much better for me. And she was like really hostile about it. And she said that basically, she said, I feel like you're accepting that you're disabled without us having tried everything. You know, which I was like, what? I feel like you're accepting you're disabled? Like, I'm sorry. I accepted I was disabled years ago. Are we not on this, you know, are we not on the same page here? Like, I've already had a chronic health issue for years. Part of the reason I rented this flat was because it was on the bottom floor, the ground floor, and I was worried about stairs. And you're really here saying like, oh, I feel like you're just accepting you're disabled. Like, she was mean about it. It felt mean. Like, she wasn't happy about me having acquired a lightweight wheelchair and being, you know, so ecstatic about being comfortable for the first time in my life. No. She was quite hostile about it. So she said, yeah, I feel like you're just accepting that you're disabled without us having tried everything for pain. And then she said, you know, I can't be your doctor and just have Zoom appointments with you. Like, this isn't how being a doctor works. Like, this isn't conducive to good doctoring practices, so I need you to come to my office. And I was like, okay, well, how am I going to do that? Because I still can't walk, like I'm still in a wheelchair. And she was like, okay, well, I can write you out a form and get you transport here and stuff. And I was like, okay, well, could I bring the wheelchair? And she was like, you want to bring the wheelchair? And I was like, well, I don't have a, like, I was like kind of in disbelief because I don't have a choice, right? It's like, you can't just, you want to bring the wheelchair? I don't have a, like, I'm telling you that I can't get around I can't even get around my flat without a wheelchair. So in what world do you think I'm going to be able to come to your doctor's office without a wheelchair? Like, how is that going to work at all? So anyway, I was already kind of getting tense at this point. But I agreed to it. I was like, you know what? Okay, you want me to come to the doctor's office with a wheelchair? Fine, I'll do it. It's probably going to cost me 1,000,000 spoons. I'm probably going to be in pain for days just because of doing it, but fine, I'll do it. So the date was set. 2 weeks from now, I got to be at the doctor's place, in my wheelchair, in the transport that was paid for by the medical system, thank God. So yeah, 2 weeks later, I have the appointment, and my doctor isn't actually there to greet me that day. It's like a replacement doctor or whatever, but, you know, same thing. I've got an appointment. And so I get up, I'm super stressed about it, obviously. I haven't been out of my place for months because I'm in a wheelchair, I can't walk, like, you know, whatever. I haven't been out for ages, so this is like a big thing for me, right? You know, I'm worried that I'm gonna, you know, stretch the wrong way and my leg's gonna disconnect, I'm gonna piss myself in the Uber and it's gonna be horrible and I'm gonna be by myself and I'm not gonna be able to go to the emergency room because they'll laugh at me and they don't believe me and everyone hates me. You know, I'm really, really worried. And so I get there, you know, it's a whole thing and I'm so proud of myself. I got there, you know, no. I get there, I'm in the waiting room and the doctor comes out who's supposed to see me and she's like, she looks at me and she says, oh, how are we going to do this? And I say, what? And she says, well, you know, I'm supposed to see you and the office is upstairs. And so, you know, my doctor had just not, she just expected me to walk upstairs. Basically, my doctor, who insisted that I come to her office even though it was like dangerous for me, and you know, she thought that I was just gonna get there and be able to walk upstairs, which is like one of the most humiliating things that I've ever experienced, like honestly. You know, I was still getting used to the fact that I couldn't walk, which is like, you know, it's kind of like a scary thing to experience when you live alone and you don't have a lot of support in life, you know, to go through this. And, you know, she just expected me to walk up the stairs, which is just honestly one of the most insulting things. The fact that it wasn't taken into account, especially since she prescribed me the damn wheelchair to start with. Like, she has no excuse. Anyway. And so I wasn't able to be seen by the doctor because they hadn't taken into account that a person in a wheelchair wouldn't be able to walk up the stairs. So I was sent home, which means that I did all of, you know, I got there, you know, I put myself at risk, my health at risk to get there, just to be told, like, oh, well, how are we going to get you upstairs? Like, anyway, so I was just sent home, like, you know, I was like in a state, like I was just crying at this point. And since then, the same doctor has just said like, oh, I can't be your doctor anymore. Oh, she never called me to apologize, ever. the doctor who, you know, I've been seeing for 6-7 years of my life, who insisted that I come to her office. And when I got there, like, they couldn't even see me because I was in a wheelchair, and they just, like, she never apologized. All I got was a message that she got another doctor to tell me. And the message was, oh, if you ever want to talk about what happened, then I'm very open to seeing you and talking about the situation that happened, but we'll only be able to talk about it at my office, which does require you to walk upstairs. That's the message I got. So I was ditched by my doctor, and I was told that the only way for us to discuss the awfully insulting experience that I had because of her was at her office upstairs, that I can't... No, there's no elevators now. Anyway, that's my, like, little... I mean, it's probably, like, really jumbled, the whole story, and I've probably left out loads, but... yeah. It's honestly one of the most hurtful experiences I've had in a while. You know? And that cherry on top, you know, her saying, like, if you want to discuss what happened, we can at my office. You know? I can't even get there, you know? It's just so insulting. And the fact that I've never even gotten the opportunity to tell her how fucked up it was, what she did. And, like, how she's treated me. Just ditched. Not even any opportunities for me to talk about it, because the only way that she wishes to talk about it is at her office, which I can't access. And she knows that, so of course it's a lovely way to get out of it. But yeah, it's just like a little bit of a perspective on what's happened, you know? You know? I still don't know what happened to my leg or my back at the emergency room, you know? Like, no one's been able to tell me what happened. I don't think anyone's really, you know... I did see a rheumatologist who was quite nice about things. He was quite nice. And he's the one who said I might have fibromyalgia and spondyarthritis or something, which is some kind of arthritis of the back. Well, the problem is that, like, doctors are mostly... Like, where are the disabled doctors? That's what I want to know. I would trust a disabled doctor. I would trust a doctor with health issues more than an able-bodied doctor. You know? People who have experience with health issues should be... You know, but, you know, the way that it's set up, you know, there's no way that someone like me would ever be able to become a healthcare provider in any sense, you know, because of, you know, because I'm disabled, so it's just not, you know, it wouldn't be possible. Which is ironic, you know, whatever. I think in a society that made sense, people who were disabled would be prioritized as experts in the field of health. Yeah.